Want to say welcome to everyone. The New Jersey State Butt Society is thrilled to have our experts speak on the topic of black glass, Joan Lindsay and Simone Kincaid. This is the second of 3 in the series, and we're so happy that you are able to do this for us. Take it away, Simone.
Okay.
Well, before you start, may I interrupt here?
Yeah,
because you had mentioned talking about the questions, Virginia's questions from last time.
Okay.
Before we start on number 2.
All
now, if you have your black glass handbooks handy, if you turn to page 14.
Which question are you speaking of?
I'm talking about her back type, the recessed 4-way shank.
Okay.
And if you look at your book on page 14, the middle row on the far left, that is very similar to the picture that Virginia sent.
Yes, I'm trying to bring that up, and I had it on my screen before. Hang on. Virginia, where are you? There we go. Okay, there we are.
That's it.
And yeah, you can see the deep thread grooves there and the 4-way box shank. And she asked if that was a recessed shank. And yes, it is, but we still classify it as a 4-way box. And if you look on page 15 on the middle row on the far right, we do show just a loop shank that is recessed. And I don't know if that's an official term, but that's what we called it.
Well, thank you. We appreciate the answer to that question.
And then the other question was about a card of buttons that was labeled. It's a store card that's labeled genuine jet. And then on the back it says made in West Germany. Well, now, Simone, if you know something I don't, but I'd say that's genuine black glass.
Correct.
So hang
It's a
on, I
trade
want to show this card, and I have to get back to share screen again. Come on, share screen. Here we go.
And I've never heard of any true jet coming from West Germany either.
No.
But how unnerving. So help us out also in terms of, we were trying to decide if it made we were using the jet material, trying to make it be jet, right? Right, Virginia?
Yes.
Whether it was hard or soft, and whether it left a mark, and we didn't want to take apart the card. Yeah. What if we didn't have the card saying it was made in West Germany? I'm going to show you the actual button.
So jet is very lightweight compared to glass. It's going to be more lightweight, the same size, the same dimension of button. Is going to be lighter weight. It's not going to have mold marks, and those buttons have mold marks. Jet is carved.
And they wouldn't have shanks like that.
Pardon?
They would not have shanks like that.
Right. That's a molded shank. And glass is going to be a lot colder, although jet is a gemstone, but glass is going to be much colder if you put it up to your cheek. The other thing is jet has sort of a matte sheen to it. Yes, it can be highly polished, but jet has a different kind of feel and finish. Also, jet floats in salt water generally.
That's good to know.
Glass is going to sink to the bottom of a glass of any salt water. It's going to sink. So
So if we dared to take the buttons off the card, that would be a cheap and easy way to determine, right? That it would sink in salt water, you said.
I don't think that
You
you would
don't even
even
need
have
to
to
do
go
that.
that far.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it says West Germany. That's glass.
Oh,
And they always said genuine jet, and it's a trade name. It's not, it was a way to merchandise the buttons. It is not jet. And jet's not going to be on a card like that.
Right. And I agree with you, but suppose somebody's trying to sell us a jet button that's not on a card. What you've summarized is really, really helpful.
Yeah, look for mold marks and you know it's not real
Mhm.
jet.
And it's I'm grateful to I'm just delighted that Virginia, where was her picture? It was such fun for her to bring this question to us, and also a good learning lesson. You can't believe everything your
That's-
seller says.
Right. Well, and that's on the card too.
Mhm. Mhm.
It was merchandised that way. It was a flashy term, and
Right. But the fact that genuine jet was a trademark is
they'll
fun.
call it French jet too.
Okay. All right. Yeah, people keep telling me that they have jet buttons, and I keep saying I don't think so. But you gotta look.
Well, they have glass that's called jet, but it's
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Virginia. Do you have any questions about what they just said?
Nope.
Okay. Wow. All right. I'm going to ask everybody to turn off their video now so that we can have a good live stream. And welcome to SMT 510. Would you say who you are?
Simone
whatever.
Kincaid.
Simone. No, it's Pam.
Oh.
Pam Fusio, right.
Sorry. Okay, I've got to find the program, and I think obviously it disappeared because something happened. I'll find it.
Here we go.
Okay. Let me get to the start. Can you all see that?
Yes. Mhm.
Oh, shoot, I started it from the beginning. Sorry. Didn't mean to do that. I'm so used to doing that. Here we go. Okay, start from the current slide. Okay, so in this section, in session 2, we're going to talk about construction and decorative finish and mechanical makeup. And we're going to do it in the order of construction, decorative finish, and mechanical makeup, I believe, because I think that's the way this slideshow is set up. So to begin with, the term construction describes distinctive types of buttons formed and are decorated with the use of heat. Buttons may be formed while the glass is hot and malleable, or made of individual glass components fused together. So lamp work, blown, and fused glass are examples of buttons formed with heat. Now here, the following embellishments were applied with heat, and those are coronets and impression inlays. And the coronet is a piece of glass applied by heat to another piece, to the base of black glass. And then this little piece of metal is applied when the black glass base is hot still. There's also various kinds of overlays that are considered to be a type of construction. On the left is cased glass. On the right is, in the center is an overlay. And then on the right is another overlay, and it's a piece of white, thin sheet of white glass that is applied to the black glass base. And then there are tile types. So This is a base of black glass with other glass placed into the black glass base. It is not an overlay. Then there's these rare painted designs under thin, clear glass, and they also fall under construction because the parts are joined together with heat. So here's a close-up, and I tried taking pictures of these this morning with my pluggable. And this is a close-up of one of those painted designs under glass, and the paint is underneath a very thin, clear sheet of glass. And I tried to take a side view. It's really difficult to take a side view. But you can see the thin glass ends right here along the edge. And I don't know if you can see my arrow, but here you can see the edge of the glass. And then this is the base. Now, we do show some examples in the book of intermixed glass, but we stop short of trying to distinguish between intermixed glass, swirled or striped overlays. Some of us are positive we can tell the difference between the two, but others say the only way to know for sure is to break the button. Now, I don't really want to go out and encourage you to start breaking black glass buttons, but I think you can see here is an overlay of goldstone, and here's your intermixed glass button underneath. So is this intermixed or overlay? Now, in the 1967 version of the handbook, they described the same difficulty that we encountered with trying to describe what is intermixed and what is overlaid. They even went so far as to drop the class for true slag, their term for intermixed. And they said it would be reinstated if a true example was identified. The class still exists and unfortunately still causes occasional problems in competition.
Simone,
Yes.
I raised a hand for myself. Would you define intermixed again? I kind of lost that.
Well, I'm not
Intermixed
sure. That's the problem. A definition is really difficult. The 67 handbook tries to describe it. Let's see if I can go back.
Is it
I don't really have a definition of intermixed, but
Yeah,
intermixed glass is going to be, I think Joan was describing it last time, where you have one rod that has intermixed glass in that rod, and the buttons are made off of that rod of intermixed glass. I think it's different than when you have the canes that are set up where there's a cane of one color and a cane of another on either side, and then they're made into a button. Joan, do you want to interrupt me?
well, yeah, it's just, I think the basic thing is that the glass is mixed throughout.
Right.
The two different colors are throughout the button from top to bottom. And as you showed earlier, the broken one, to be truly intermixed, you should be able to break the button and see both colors in the center. However, there are many, many overlays, and the experts say there's no way to tell without breaking the button. So we just accept both kinds. If it's intermixed front and back, then we call it an intermixed button.
You can see on this button here on the right that that's completely intermixed all throughout.
intermixed colors?
Right.
Kind of like if you were folding chocolate pudding into vanilla pudding and swirling it around
Right.
versus putting icing.
Exactly.
And the goldstone is the icing on the top.
I get it. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Does that help?
It does.
But-
It does.
But not all have the icing on the top.
Right, like
They can look like these buttons here that she's showing.
like this one on the right
Mhm.
doesn't have all that icing.
Right.
You know, that's completely intermixed all the way throughout.
But when I look at that, I might think that the icing is the gold, like, you know, somehow they set that in like a tile, you know.
Well, this
like-
goldstone is an overlay on top of an intermixed glass, and I
Right.
know it's getting
Right, right. But on the right-hand side, that button could be, if you didn't know it was, didn't consult it as intermixed, the icing could be the gold and white and silver stripes, and you wouldn't know that it was within the button too, right?
Well, and I think probably what I need to do is add some side view edges of some of these buttons.
Mm-hmm. Right. Thank you. I think I get it better.
Okay. So now we're going to go into decorative finishes. And a decorative finish consists of a treatment or coating that fully or partially covers the button surface. These are used alone or in combination. Now this button is acid etched. And what that means is that the surface of the button was treated and then the design is etched into that surface. And then there's different lusters, and there's really a lot more lusters than I'm showing here, but here's 3 of them. You've got a gold luster on a Division 3 glass button. You've got a silver and gold luster on a Division 1 button, and an iridescent luster on a Division 1 button. Then there's various types of paint. The one on the left is a regular paint, and that kind of paint tends to chip off and can even wear away really easily. And then the paint on the right is an enamel hardened paint, or probably, correct me if I'm wrong, Joan, but I've always been told that it's almost like it's been fired after it was put on.
Yes,
And so that paint is not going to come off as easily.
right. It's fired on.
Right. And now this is a kind of a pretty rare, unusual one. This is an electroplated black glass button. And what that means is that a flux has been painted on the finished black glass button. Then that button was dipped and it went through an electroplating process, and the metal adhered to the black glass in the design that was painted on the glass. And this can be in silver or gold. And everybody that collects black glass would like to have one of those. Here is a modern Division 3 cold plastic finish, cold plastic enamel finish. And when you first look at them, they look like a really thick paint, but and you feel it, and you can feel that it's plastic on top of that glass. And they're all Division 3 buttons that I know of. I've never seen anything in a Division 1 button that would be that material, because it wasn't available. And they come in different colors. Okay, so now we're going to come to mechanical makeup. The term mechanical makeup describes the techniques used to join 2 or more button components or to add embellishment while in the solid, cool state without the use of heat. This includes gluing, pinning or riveting, soldering, and inserting. And many of these buttons cross over into other categories as well. For example, metal thread or clear and colored glass attached to black glass base qualify as an OME. And metal backs are also considered back types. So in this first slide, here is a frame. And this is a piece of glass surrounding another piece of glass. And this is this the one that's called a watch crystal, Joan?
Yes.
Yeah, I believe this is called a watch crystal. And so it's a piece of glass that's been, and there's paint underneath, and the clear piece of glass is covering it.
And it looks like there's some pearl tesserae under there also.
Correct. There's pearl inside there.
Excuse
And
me,
then-
Joan, what was that term? Pearl what?
Tesserae.
What's that?
Well,
chips,
it's
pearl
just
chips
little
or
chips. Yeah.
little mosaic pieces.
Intentional though, right?
Yes, it's just tiny chips of pearl.
Thanks.
Glass with glass is another type of mechanical makeup. And you can see here on the bottom base of this glass on the right with the star pattern, the base is black glass, and the glass that's been fused or that's been placed on top is red glass. So that's considered glass with glass.
Right. And it isn't fused, it's probably
Right.
glued.
It's glued, correct. I misspoke. Now this is considered a metal back button on the left, the little fly. And you can see that the whole back is metal and the little glass pieces are I can't really see if there's rivets on this one. I don't know, Joan. Do you know?
I don't know either. I'm guessing, I'm looking with my magnifier here and I can't tell.
I can't tell either.
Glued.
But it's considered a mechanical makeup. And then the one on the right is called a precision inlay, where these glass pieces have been inserted. It's also basically glass with glass, but the glass is precisely inlaid into openings that have been made for these pieces of glass. And they're completely smooth across. It is not like an insert where you can feel the top of the glass. This is going to be completely shaved, smooth, flat across the surface. And that's how you know it's a precision inlay. And actually, I should also say one more thing. You can actually, in a precision inlay, you can see the outline around the other pieces of glass. So it's not an impression inlay. It's actually been cut out and made for that. And you can see those little edges of the cut areas. So buttons bound with metal or thread are also considered a mechanical makeup. And it's not unusual to find these buttons with the metal or the thread missing, unfortunately. Then, of course, escutcheons, and there's all different manners of escutcheons. Now, this is a rimmed black glass button. And when you first look at it, it looks like glass set in metal. But when you flip it over and you can see that the base of this button is black glass, the shank is in the black glass, and this edge is considered to be a rim. And if I remember what Sue Dickout was teaching us about paste, this is a closet paste. And so this is going to be a 19th century paste and not an 18th century paste. And most likely late 19th century. Now, this one is glass mounted in metal. And so this would not be in the black glass category. This is glass set in metal.
Section 8.
Pardon?
Section 8.
Section, okay. Thank you. Now it looks almost identical to the button that we saw previously, but you can see that the back is completely covered with the metal. Okay, let's see, were we going to do decorative finishes too? Or no, wait, we finished. We're done. Okay, I'm going to escape out.
Before you do, Simone,
Oh,
Did-
okay.
did I miss paperweights?
Where did we have paperweights?
Well, they'd be in construction, but I just didn't remember having seen it, and I was just
Did we
curious.
not? Oh, we have this part about the foil embedded.
Oh,
I think
Yeah.
that's where,
okay,
you want me to talk about that one?
sure.
Okay, I'm going to share again. Or wait, this slide. Okay. Okay, so this foil is this is a paperweight button. And the foil, since it is embedded, is not considered an OME. And many times you'll see people say they have foil OME and they get a measle because it is a paperweight. And the foil is inside the button, not on the outside.
The base, am I interrupting, Simone?
No, go ahead.
Well, the base is black glass, and then the foil would be considered the setup in a paperweight. And then there's a glass, and I can't tell whether that the foil was green or if it's a green glass cap.
No.
I think, Joan, in this slideshow, we really didn't go into the paperweights very much. And that's too bad. And we only showed one picture of the impression inlay, but there's lots of different impression inlays.
True.
And I don't think we got into moon glows either. So,
No,
Well, we can't do everything in one time. And for this particular presentation, I tried to come blind, and I can sort of see now, but I'm going to have to go back to the book. We were trying to make this something that would be easy enough to comprehend for the person who was new. So I'm going to ask a newbie question, and maybe we can go back to the presentation perhaps.
oh yeah, I can get back there.
And everybody else, think of your experienced or new questions. You said that precision inlay was
Mechanical.
Trying to start my video. Precision inlay was absolutely smooth to the surface, and I'm thinking like Pietro.
But you can run your fingernail and you can touch, you can feel the edge just slightly.
Okay, so if that's precision inlay, can you remind us what the other inlays are that don't feel as smooth?
impression.
Impression?
Uh-huh.
How about
So-
tile? Tile, isn't tile kind of inlay?
Well, it's kind of in a class by itself.
Here, I'll go back to it.
Yeah, it is a construction technique.
Mhm.
There is the design, from what I understand, is like an intaglio design in the black glass. And then the colored glass, I think it's a powder that they put in this impression in the black glass, and it's heated and then ground off
fused.
smooth.
Yeah.
And then either the glass that's put in there is colored, but these particularly look as if they've been painted afterwards.
So it's a
So it's-
difference in the construction.
It's done with heat.
Yes.
This is a heat construction involves heat.
Okay.
So the colored glass powder is placed into the intaglio design,
Mm-hmm.
and that glass becomes, after it's heated, it becomes a solid glass. And that's why when you run your finger across this one, you're not going to feel the edges. But on the precision inlay, you're going to feel the edges.
Okay, because it melds all together. I'm trying to think of another.
Correct.
I'm trying to think of another cooking metaphor. Maybe grilled cheese sandwich versus what could be a precision inlay? Anybody?
Well, those would be little canapes where you use a cookie cutter in the center, and you have white bread and you use a cookie cutter in white bread and whole wheat, and you take the whole wheat cookie and put it in the white bread sandwich.
What a brilliant
And then you heat it.
comparison. And so that would, are you describing tile or a precision inlay?
Precision inlay.
Right, because the
that one.
wheat
Okay.
bread is a thing that you put into another thing, whereas the tile is a powder that you put in a hole.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
Okay, great. I wonder if there are other questions, but I wonder if you could just, we have time, if you could just quietly and slowly scroll through your presentation from the start and see if anybody has a question about, and if you have a question, you're just going to have to jump in with your, unmute yourself and jump in and ask if you have a question about it. Okay. So maybe you don't have to say everything again.
So this is construction. So this glass button was made with heat.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lamp work, and this is mechanical makeup. This is a black glass button with fabric on the inside. So it's applied after the glass is made, after the button's made.
Right. Okay.
So now we're talking about construction. And these are some of the different types of buttons that are made by construction. So lamp work, blown, and fused. Any questions?
And Pam says in chat, it's really a very succinct and understandable presentation, which I agree. Yes.
This is coronet. So you have a piece of glass that is fused with heat to the base of the black glass button. And the coronets can be different colors of glass, clear glass, white glass. Sometimes the glass has foil underneath, but now we're getting a little more complicated. And then the button on the right is an impression inlay. And because that metal is impressed into a hot piece of glass, it's a construction method, and it's called an impression inlay. If that piece of metal was a pin shank, let's say, it would be an escutcheon or mechanical makeup. So that's the difference.
But my question is, are we seeing the shank, the top of the button or the bottom?
That's the top.
See, I thought it was the bottom. I thought
that's the top of the button. The bottom of the button has a little loop.
Okay.
And it's a swirl back, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it, Joan, a swirl back, I think?
Yes. Yes.
So what's the difference between impression inlay and embedded? I was told that was embedded. Is it the same thing?
Pretty much.
Okay.
I
Thanks.
think according to the classification, though, it's called impression inlay.
Yes.
But that could change.
Yes. Yes.
Before you go on, are there coronets and other things besides black glass?
Oh yeah, white glass.
But
There's
it's all
a
glass.
There's a lot of white glass there.
Colored glass.
Let's see, is there blue glass? Maybe, I don't know if I've ever seen a blue glass. Primarily it's black glass and white glass.
Right, okay, that's what I would, not a dozen other materials, it's gonna be glass.
No, this is a glass thing, and it's primarily
Uh-huh.
white and black.
Uh-huh.
And the glass, I've seen clam broth, the kind of the really pretty clam broth glass. I've seen them with red, ruby red transparent tops. They're kind of hard to find because they break so easily.
Hmm,
Mhm.
okay,
Yeah, and there have been some heated discussions through the years whether coronets might have been glued and come unglued, but
Mhm.
the experts say that they were absolutely applied with flux and heat.
great, okay.
So now the bottom left button is a cased glass button. And you could almost do a whole program on cased glass. Some of the cased glass is white on the inside, which means it's probably, you can see when it's shaved like that. That swan indicates that that's a black glass button. And the overlay is the kind of orange, rusty orange colored glass. And I've
Oh, I
seen the
didn't get
rose,
that.
there's a rose in blue and white, there's a pink and white rose. There's all different types of cased glass. And I believe, Joan, are moon glows a type of cased glass?
Well,
You don't want to go there?
maybe, but I don't know that I'd go there.
Okay, okay.
They're both made with panes.
Right,
It's just that this, the cased has the complete overlay, whereas the moon glow only has half of the the color, and the other
right,
part is clear.
right. Okay, so now the overlay, the one in the center, is a black glass base, probably a swirl back. And then there's another twisted cane of glass that's been applied to the top of that. And that's all done with heat. And they can have black glass on top overlays, or they can have goldstone, pink glass, blue glass, green glass, all different colors. This is just one type of overlay. There's how many different types of overlays are there, Joan? About a dozen maybe or more?
Probably. In the old days, they used to be shown and described, but anymore, I think they don't get quite so technical.
Well, and if you go to page 27, you'll see some of the various types of overlays.
Yes.
Thank you for describing that, because
Oh, wait a minute.
I hadn't seen that. I hadn't seen the twist around, and I was thinking of the food metaphor would be those little swizzle sticks that come in licorice, you know?
Uh-huh.
So this one on the bottom right has a very thin sheet of white glass that's been applied to the top of the black glass. And so that's called a sheet overlay.
And
That's
it's
just another type of overlay.
so it has nothing to do with the fact that there's also an escutcheon.
Yeah, it happens to have an escutcheon.
Uh-huh.
And there's another one that's grapes.
But there are some, well, there's one shown on page 26 that does not have an escutcheon.
Oh, that's
And-
correct. That's the one that's cut out.
And
Yeah.
just to be clear, can we define escutcheon for those who may not have encountered the term?
It's a definition of escutcheon. It's usually a metal piece, brass, silver, brass or silver, or any other type of metal. And it's on top of the button, and it usually is a pin shank, and it serves as a decorative piece. It's usually considered to be an OME. So this would be a brass OME. That is-
Wonderful definition. Thank you.
Oh, I'm punting here. Okay. So this is, we've already talked about this one.
Mhm.
And then this one is really complicated, and I don't know if we really want to dwell on it but do be very careful in your collections, because this is a very rare button.
Can you hear
So-
me? This one just went up for auction. It went for over $500.
Was it a large?
Yeah, it was a large.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I saw it go for over $500.
Thank you for that information. Who,
I
who is-
didn't get it. I bid on it, but I didn't get it.
who is speaking?
Lynn,
Oh, great. Thank you, Lynn.
Holy cow. This one I just happened to find recently in a box of buttons that I bought. So, and the color, because I photographed it today in a overcast light, it really brought out the color, which normally you can't see color like this. This is kind of unusual, but I just happened to tilt it the right way and got the picture.
Whoa.
But this is another one, and this is a small. I do have the big one, but I didn't realize it was worth that much money. Holy cow.
You can go to Hawaii on it.
Yeah, yeah. And then here's the intermixed again.
Mhm.
Can I mention something? You had mentioned not breaking buttons to check if they're intermixed, but I have found, I've been saving anything like it has a broken shank,
Oh, yeah.
and they're good ones to use for examples. So even though they're broken, don't throw them out.
Right,
You use that as a learning tool for others. You can show them what it looks like.
right.
Yeah.
I've done that before. I think Marilyn, in her slideshow last weekend, showed a button that had the popper shank in it, the key shank,
Mhm.
and it was a broken piece. And so it really helped define what that key shank was. So those buttons, I agree with you, they are very important to save.
Good tip, Sarah. Thank you.
Mhm.
So here we have the intermixed again. And this is like a can of worms with glass, people. And then the acid etched. Now, acid etched is just one type of decorative finish. This is a Division 1 button. If it was a Division 3 button, sometimes we call them frosted. That's a type of acid etch too.
Simone, I'd like to say something about acid etched.
Yes.
I've been studying Tiffany glass, and that's what the opalescent glass that Louis Comfort Tiffany used. What made his pictures, his windows so different was that he did not use paint on the faces and the skin. He etched the details with acid.
Wow.
Mm.
And I keep wondering, because black glass came into was being worked on just about the time that they discovered opalescent glass, which they figured out how to put different colors in one sheet of glass. And I keep wondering how this is going to affect, whether I'm going to learn that this applies to.
So
But
in Division 3, most people refer to this as frosted, but I'm not showing you a Division 3 button here. And sometimes you will see buttons that are half and half, like part of the surface will be a matte finish or an acid etched surface, and then the other part of the finish will be a high polish. And when you're doing a tray of buttons, sometimes it's nice to have that multi-surface finish, decorative finish on a button. Same with lusters. Because the center button has a silver and a gold luster, that combination is nice to have on a tray.
Simone,
Yeah,
also on the iridescent luster, isn't that sometimes referred to carnival luster?
yes, there's iridescent luster, there's aurora luster, and I have heard carnival glass luster. I think there's some new ones too. There's a peacock luster, but a lot of the lusters are shown. If you want to look at the black glass book on page 30, it'll show you some of the different lusters. Beginning on page 29, it starts on page 29 and to page 30 and 31. And there's a new one called the peacock luster, and it's made with a heat vacuum process. So this slideshow is basically an introduction to the Black Glass Handbook. And so we did not show every single different thing that's in the book.
All right, but that peacock luster, you're not going to find that on that's going to be a division.
It's Division 3. It is a brand
Regular.
new Czech Republic glass button.
Right.
And I believe some of the terms, I think people get mixed up between the terms and I'm going to let Joan talk about lusters. Joan,
Okay.
because I remember we went around and around. What's an aurora? What's a carnival glass? What's iridescent?
Well, yeah, and I don't think carnival is generally used in classification.
Correct.
It's
Yeah.
probably a term that people kind of coined. A lot of our terms that have come down through the years are those that collectors kind of, oh, well, gee, this looks like carnival glass. Let's call it the carnival luster. Well, then somebody else, probably a classification chairman at the time, said, well, okay, this is iridescent. So this is what we're going to use as an official classification term. And so iridescent is generally used for Division 1 luster. And then aurora is very similar, but usually used for Division 3. And that's kind of the way we've kept them.
Thank you, Joan. And Jane has her hand up. I want to backtrack just a little and remind newcomers that Division 1 and Division 3 refer to the age of the button. Division 1 is, we're sure it's old, made before 1918-ish, and Division 3 is, we're sure it's made after that. And so that's what we're talking about.
After World War I, yes.
After World War I. So that's the definitions. Jane, you had a question?
Yes, I'm still using and assume it's still true that the acid etched or the dull is, if we look at mourning when it came in after Queen Victoria, that we've got, and I'm using it in the book that I've just finished. I'm finished writing. That the all shiny is a late commemoration of death, and that you start with a dull acid etched button so that you're all dull, and then come to shiny black, shiny dull, and then all shiny. Do you find that still true?
I've never heard that, but that could be.
Yeah, I haven't either, but sounds reasonable.
I've heard of that, and I believe, and I don't have my books in Florida with me, but that's in one of the facts about black glass. It's in there. It tells you all kinds of factual, and I recall reading it. There's the 3 stages of mourning based on the luster of your button.
Correct.
So it's customs. It's a cultural, or it's a custom.
Correct.
For how to, wear your black glass buttons. And that, I wouldn't be
That's-
surprised.
That's how I used it. And regarding the tile buttons, could you say, I've forgotten to use this term, I've now just momentarily forgotten it. But is that not a cut-off piece? In other words, you have a whole elongated, I have a whole section of black glass and this whole section of tile. They look as if they've been chopped. Do you follow, from a long section? And
No.
you don't think so? Then how would you define tile?
It's,
Well, look on page 28
Okay,
in the black glass. It says a design cavity is molded into the glass body, then filled with powdered glass or aggregate, and then fused.
so it's button by button then.
Yes. And then the entire surface is ground smooth and level.
right.
Well, at least my three things are not disproved, correct?
Well, not by us.
It's essential to my book.
I've read that in several places, Jane. Thank you for that question. It is getting to be 5 o'clock. We want to honor everybody's time. Are there any questions as we kind of rotate through the rest of the slides?
And there's one other type of paint that we did not show in this slide, and it would be, it's sort of another kind of paint, and it's a chemical paint. And it kind of looks brownish. It's almost like an acid etch, but it's actually, you can see that it's a paint, but it's kind of faint like those acid etch designs. And I know people do get the acid etch designs mixed up with the chemical paint.
Would that be the ones they call
There's a picture on page,
sleepers? They call them sleepers.
I don't know what they're.
They're black glass, but they have that brown on them. And don't ask me why they call them sleepers.
I don't
You
know.
never
what
heard that?
No.
No, not for that.
But you
Sleepers.
can see on page 31, the bottom right-hand corner of page 31, there's a chemical paint. But here's the electroplated. The cold finish, you can find these in red, blue, green, bronze,
Silver.
silver, yeah, all different colors of plastic finish. Then the frame and the glass with glass. The metal back, and here we come to the precision inlay. So if you run your finger across the top of this surface, you're going to feel the edge where those pieces were placed in there.
Like this.
Here's your classic escutcheon. And then here we show the difference between a rimmed black glass and black glass mounted in metal, which is not black glass. You would not use this in a black glass category. Okay.
Well, thank you very much to Joan Lindsay and Simone Kincaid, and I can highly commend their book, the National Button Society Black Glass Handbook, 6x9 spiral bound, 64 pages, with a history of black glass, description, classification information, and more than 800 color photos of old and modern vintage buttons. It sells for $27, including shipping, I believe. And we are so, I came to this presentation not looking at that book on behalf of the people who don't have it, but I strongly recommend that you do. And if you want to borrow mine and you're in New Jersey, I'll let you do that.